So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my Apple Watch Ultra honest review. Now, I've had this watch for around 2 weeks. I initially purchased one. I thought it was too big. I actually took it back. Week later, I regretted that decision due to battery life, and I picked it up again, and now I'm ready for my review. So you can see over here on the left side, they do have the all new action button, and when you do click that action button, it will trigger things like a workout, which you can do, and it can also mark segments within that workout. On the right side, they did improve the actual crown size. It's bigger and it's easier to press with gloves. It's also protected, and I actually used to scratch the crowns on my previous Apple Watches, so I do really like that. It's really cool. Also, I will say though that one con with this is that it doesn't feel quite as nice to turn as the regular Apple Watch, just because there's that little barrier blocking it. I found that out just by using this for a couple of weeks. You also do have the button over here to go ahead and trigger things like calling emergency, the ridiculously loud siren, which I will not click, medical ID, and compass backtrack. So a lot of things you can trigger with that. One thing I will say I don't like too much about the Apple Watch Ultra though is that these orange on these sides, I don't know, it just looks a little kitty. I know it's supposed to be ultra rugged, sporty looking, but for me, I'm not into orange. I just don't like orange whatsoever. I wish those buttons were different colors, maybe just the color of the body or something like that. So one area I like to see Apple improve is giving the customer more color options for this higher end Apple Watch Ultra. I do like that it's titanium. I think it looks nice. That's the actual titanium colorway. But I think having a silver option as well as maybe a darker option like a black, for example, would definitely appeal to a lot of consumers. Now you can see it does have dual speakers there on both sides, so this should have louder calls and people should be able to hear you easier on this Apple Watch Ultra. So if you look at the back case, it just looks like a tank right here. Apple Watch Ultra 49mm titanium and ceramic casing. This also does have a sapphire crystal display. I still put a screen protector on it just to keep the scratches off, but it shouldn't scratch that easy. I still like to protect it though. GPS, LTE, and that's for cellular. And you also have a water resistance rating of 100 meters. And this is also dive certified, so you can actually dive with this watch. Now, in terms of the bands, I did go with the white ocean band here. I do prefer the lighter colors. I mean, they do get dirty, but you can always swap them out later. One thing I really like too is that the Apple Watch Ultra did support my 45mm Series 7 bands as well. However, because of the width of this Apple Watch, it definitely doesn't look good with a lot of bands. However, I would recommend that you pick up some other color options. I actually found these on Amazon, and they look almost similar to the ones that come with the Apple Watch Ultra. Specifically, these bands, these ocean bands, are around $100 from Apple, so I found an alternative option. Also, right here, you can see this leather band will fit on here as well, but I find like certain bands, they just don't go right with the body of this Apple Watch, and mostly because that body looks extremely rugged. One thing I will say, honestly, that I enjoyed was when you actually unbox this Apple Watch Ultra right here. It comes in a neat looking box, but what's cool about it is that they're letting you know this is a premium new product with this booklet. So they have like this little booklet like showing off the product. It just makes for a nice premium unboxing experience, and it's kind of like a special edition kind of feel just because it's an all new product category in terms of not being a new thing. It's still an Apple Watch, but an all new product like the Apple Watch Ultra. It's the first time they're doing something like that, and it feels kind of special when you do unbox it. Now, moving on to some of the specs. One thing I gotta say, honestly, is that the display on this thing is ultra bright. And I mean, it's noticeably brighter than prior Apple Watches. Getting at 2000 nits, I was actually shocked that Apple announced that this thing could go to that ridiculous brightness level, because that's something is typically reserved for phones. So seeing that on here was pretty awesome. Also, I do have to mention that I love the flat display on here. It makes typing so much easier when you're using that keyboard or anything like that. It's pretty cool. So let's say I want to add something here to my grocery list. How about milk? You can see it's just easier to type because there's no curving on the edges there. Also, another thing I want to mention about this display is that because of that flat nature, you can kind of feel a little sharpness on the edges, but it's kind of reassuring. It doesn't really make a lot of accidental presses. So the width of it, making apps appear larger. It's actually one of the best, actually probably the best smartwatch experience. I mean, if you're going to be using a smartwatch as intended, like a phone kind of on your wrist, it makes a lot of sense to have a very flat display on board. I also like this new or specific wayfinder, specific to the Apple Watch Ultra, that you can go ahead and turn the crown and make it darker like that at night. It's pretty stealthy looking, pretty awesome. Also, if we go ahead and hit edit here, you're going to find yourself a bunch of different color options as well, but it just has a lot of information. I always like a watch face when it has a lot of complications you can add. So having different complications and things like that, allowing me to put a ton of information right there on the home screen or on the home clock face. I mean, it's just definitely really preferred. So going through a couple more I have on board. Some of these watch faces, because the screen's so big, they kind of like wasting space here if you don't put complications there. So, I think they could add some more specific ones to Apple Watch Ultra, but usually they only give you like one extra one like that one. I'd like to see a little bit more for being twice the price, like maybe 4 different watch faces specific to Apple Watch Ultra, but nope, we see mostly the same stuff here. Not that that's a bad thing. But overall, if you're looking for a big clock face on an Apple Watch, this is going to be the biggest you're going to find. Let's get on to something that really matters here, and that is the battery life for this Apple Watch Ultra. I can tell you that I'm getting amazing battery life. You can see what is today. I think it's Tuesday already. Last time I charged this Sunday at 7:56 p.m. Look at how slow it drains. There's still 55% battery life. I tracked my sleep the past 2 nights. I did a couple of workouts yesterday, and easily we're making it to 7:56 tonight. That's 48 hours. Apple's rating this thing at 36 with usage, 60 with like low power modes and stuff like that. So they're right on the money when they're talking about those battery ratings, and I think they're actually underestimating it. Depending on how you use it, if you turn off background app refresh and you're not using Apple Pay and you're not blasting the brightness outdoors all day, you'll definitely probably exceed what Apple is recommending here. So they're definitely not lying to you about what you are going to get in terms of battery life. Also, I do want to mention that this is a great watch to use things like compass, for example. So let's go ahead and find the compass on here, simply because this compass is going to be much larger than some of your other Apple Watches out there. So if you are hiking and stuff like that, you're doing some of those more rigorous sports and things, this definitely is going to be the best one to do it with. You're just going to have a much larger and brighter displays when you are outdoors, and you have the crash detection, fall detection. You do have the siren if you get lost and stuff like that. So pretty amazing. Another thing I want to talk about is the speed. The Apple S8 chip in here is ridiculous fast for a watch. I mean, this is going to be the fastest performing smartwatch that I've seen. A lot of the other ones, they're not as snappy as the Apple Watch. So definitely Apple has the lead here in performance. I will say when I do use the browser, like if you are able to use the browser through, Siri or something, I start scrolling the web, it does get a little slower there. But other than that, this whole watch experience is incredibly quick, and it reminds me a lot of what they're doing with the iPhone 14 series. I'm not going to touch too much on the diving experience because I don't really dive, but you do have that option there if you do want to dive. I do want to talk about how does it feel on the wrist though, and definitely at first, one of the reasons I initially returned this Apple Watch and then I ended up going back to it was I thought it was too heavy at first. I'm gonna be honest with you. This thing feels quite heavy on the wrist, and a lot of people say, oh, it looks like a phone on your wrist, and well, isn't that the point? Don't we want a smartwatch to feel like we can use it as a smartwatch and not just be something that fades off into the background? If I want something that fades off into the background, I'm just going to go get a regular watch. I want to use the thing. So I like having a lot of smart screen here to go ahead and play with it. But I still think on smaller wrists, this thing is going to look ultra bulky. I think it'd be neat if they could bring an Apple Watch Ultra, like the smaller version, like a smaller case size with still a little bit larger battery than something like an Apple Watch Series 8, for example, and maybe offer it for $699 instead of $799, for example. So overall, I think it looks pretty nice though on my wrist. Some people's wrists though, this might look ultra bulky, but I think most people with larger wrists, this thing is just going to look amazing. And there's going to be people who will even sacrifice the larger size to get that amazing battery life. So it's a really solid watch right here for sure. I will say though that even though it's ultra rugged, I just paid too much to just let this thing bump up against walls and stuff. So I did buy myself a little case to go ahead and put on top of there. You can get these little protectors on Amazon for like $8, whatever, $10. So I'm still not gonna just let it just bump into walls. I'm not letting it get scratched up. It does have like chamfered edges, and I just don't like seeing my $800 watch get all banged up. So I definitely still bought a couple of cases to cover this thing up with. One thing I will say though is because of that weight, it is a little bit more uncomfortable to sleep with. However, I still do sleep tracking because I really enjoy seeing the type of sleep that I am getting on the Apple Watch Ultra. Is pretty cool. And honestly, this is definitely a more rugged feel. I used to wear a G-Shock all the time, and look at the case size. It's pretty similar to something like your standard G-Shock watch. So definitely pretty cool. And even if you want to use a Garmin watch, this thing is kind of playing in that league a little bit, just nowhere near that in battery life. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Honestly, 1 month later, this watch has been out for about a month. You know, I've had it a couple of weeks, but 2 weeks later for me, I love this watch. This watch is not only durable, it feels upgraded versus the other Apple Watches, which feel like they're never getting upgraded. The battery life is better. It's fast. The buttons feel more premium. The body feels more premium. The bands definitely are quite nice with these ocean bands. They also got some nylon bands and some other bands you can get. Not all bands look good with it because it's a bulky case size, but it's definitely fitting my lifestyle really well. It doesn't mean it will fit yours. If you want something sleeker, lighter, more dressy, I don't think this is the watch for you, but everyday, fitness users are gonna love this Apple Watch, and I definitely think it's a go, especially if you use the features. Yes, it's quite steep at $799, but I think giving you double the battery life, double the brightness, you are paying double the price, but you're getting double the features. So I think Apple nailed it with the pricing along with what you're getting and not overhyping it. Actually, what they say on the marketing page of the Apple Watch Ultra on their website, it stands true. As a user, I can tell you everything they were saying about this is true. There's nothing that they're like over, hyping with it. It pretty much lives up to the claims. Lastly, I still think that it would be nice if Apple can bring an Apple Watch that lasts about a week, but this is a step in the right direction. At least we're getting, 2-3 days out of this thing now. So definitely cool. And last thing I forgot to mention is you do get a braided Apple Watch cable with this, and it charges pretty darn fast. So even when it dies, you can go take a shower, get ready for your day, throw it on the charger, and you'll have most of the charge you need for the whole day. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if you're picking up an Apple Watch Ultra or not. Definitely would like to know your experience with it if you already have one or if you plan to get one. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.